All right, let's take a look at some news articles. So I was very interested in this. I didn't know Chrome has a new cookie theft defense, which I would like to know more about. Chrome has apparently got something called app-bound encryption, which encrypts cookies and stored passwords using a Windows service that runs with system privileges. So this sounds interesting and possibly weak, and apparently it is weak because the malware that people used, InfoStealer malware, there's a bunch of them that have all developed ways to get around it. A whole bunch of these different malware stealers have figured out how to defeat it. So, and the details are not clear yet, exactly how it gets around it and exactly how that defense works. I would like to learn more about this, but anyway, apparently Chrome has a new defense. App-bound encryption, so it must somehow use a different key. What? Yeah, that should stay up there. That was in 214, right?
You don't want it?
Oh, it should, no, they're gonna pick it up tomorrow, but it has to be in 214, where I put it.
What is your name?
What's that?
It's addressed to you.
I know, but now it goes up there, it's for the club tomorrow. So thanks, just leave it in 214. Good, all right, good. Anyway, yeah. All right, so anyway, I'd like to learn more about that defense. So this is an issue that's increasingly important. Not only are all these man-made satellites up there blocking traffic, there are killer asteroids. In fact, this is actually a very interesting issue, and normally it's not clear how we are here because it took us 100 million years to evolve from like blue-green algae to here, and the average time between extinction asteroids is 1 million years. So this is what perhaps explains the answer to Fermi's paradox. Why is it that we are the only intelligent life in the galaxy? Which appears to be undeniably true. We've looked with radio telescopes. There doesn't seem to be anybody using rockets or radio or anything out there. And so apparently, the original Drake equation estimated how many planets would have life, and the answer is millions. If all they have to be is about this size and have like oxygen and water, then a lot of planets like that are out there, but none of them have evolved intelligent life, and this is apparently the answer. So apparently, they say the solar system apparently with the moon and the sun and Jupiter is just aligned right, so it sucks up the asteroids. They don't hit us that often. But anyway, this is certainly something that we should worry about. If you look at the moon, it's covered with craters. Clearly, people get clobbered with asteroids, planets get clobbered with asteroids all the time, and that would be bad for us if one of them hit us. So there's great interest in deflecting them. And you're now tracking them all to try to find them. And so they're trying to figure out how to do it. And what they've discovered is, by making a model of this in a laboratory, they think a nuclear bomb would do it. Now, a nuclear bomb would not destroy the asteroid, but it would vaporize one part of it, and that would push it over to the side. And they say just a bomb might be enough, which is a whole lot easier than somehow mounting a rocket ship to it or something. Yes, well, Yuri, yeah, we'll talk about this later. Yuri, I think you're still finishing an incomplete. So yeah, I'll talk about it after the lecture, Yuri. Anyway, so, all right, so that's interesting. So this is the latest plan, and it sounds a lot more practical than the previous plans. They did test trying to deflect an asteroid about a year ago. They rammed a rocket into it to see what would happen, and what they discovered is it wasn't solid at all. It was like a pile of gravel. It sort of collapsed into like a big mist of rocks and gravel, and sort of ended up split in two. So this is a problem, you know, if a big asteroid was coming, what exactly would we do about it? They are trying to prepare for this. So this international group, the International Trade Unit Confederation, has awarded prizes for being the worst corporate underminers of democracy. And the number one worst is Amazon, and the rest are the big major American companies. Saying what these do, they push right-wing peoples that lower taxes, undercut higher wages, crack down on trade unions and the like. And that seems pretty clear and undeniable. I think all the analysts I've heard have said we really need to break up these monopolies, but their political power is too much to break them up currently in America, so we'll see.
They did it with Bell.
What's that?
Bell, the Bell company?
The Bell company, yeah, long ago.
Price to AT&T and
They did break them up. That's right. Sometimes the U.S. government is successful at breaking things up, but not lately. But maybe they will. It'll be like everything, it will depend greatly on the next election.
At the moment, I would add just this. At the moment, the only person that I think is doing the interest, that is defending the interest of consumers is Lisa Khan.
Yeah, Lina Khan, yes, exactly. And there's a
They
huge,
want to fire her.
yes, people want to fire her, which is a clue about how important she is.
In fact, I'm concerned about Kamala Harris, because Kamala Harris is receiving money
Yes.
from these companies that want to fire her.
Yes, and that's the problem. This is what Bernie Sanders always said, we have to get the money out of politics. But once it's in there, it's very hard to get it out. Even Obama had to take the corporate money to get in.
Oh, yes.
That's the problem, yeah. Anyway, so Russia has got a super weapon, a giant rocket missile to carry a whole bunch of bombs. And it has failed spectacularly, leaving a giant crater. They announced the test of it, and it just left a giant crater where it was launched. It's an intercontinental ballistic missile that was supposed to have, it carries a whole bunch of different bombs, but apparently it's a flop. So that's good news for us. And this one, I already talked about this on the podcast. This is pretty crazy. OpenAI has been pushing for years that they are going to develop AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, which is as smart as a human, which, by the way, is almost certainly garbage. Gartner has rated this as ridiculous and said we don't need to plan for that, we don't need to expect it, we don't expect this to happen at all within even a decade. But Sam Altman and all the AI companies in Silicon Valley have been saying they're going to have this really soon. And now he's raised the ante. Now he claims he's going to have a super intelligent AI within a few thousand days, within just a few years. And a super intelligent AI is smarter than humans. So this, I think, is just complete nonsense. And I was glad to see that there are other people that agree with me. There's a computer scientist here who says, this is hype, it has no basis in reality, it only serves to inflate valuations, inflame the public, get headlines, and distract from the real work, which is what I tend to think. But Silicon Valley is all into overhyping things and getting huge investments. Putin proposed using a nuclear reactor as a propulsion mechanism, only to find out such mechanism was tested and the rocket. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I know there are some nuclear devices that NASA has put up going out in space, like Voyager, but yeah. Anyway, so Kaspersky, as you know, was pushed out of the United States, forbidden to do business here, and so they can't even have updates. So their current customers have found that the Kaspersky has silently uninstalled itself and replaced it with something called Ultra AV. Now the problem is Kaspersky made a partnership with another antivirus company for it to take over for their customers, so they'll continue to get updates. The problem is this appears to be a really low quality replacement. They couldn't make a deal with somebody reputable like Norton or McAfee. They found some really apparently third-rate company that has never even been tested by the tests of antivirus and stuff. So it is probably true that it is not remotely as good as Kaspersky was. So the people using Kaspersky in America would probably be well advised to move to another company. And so in case anybody didn't notice this when it happened, the EPA was pressured to lie about the harm from chemicals like plastics and stuff, and if they brought it out, they were retaliated against. This is what ProPublica does a lot. They reveal these kind of scandals, and they have during the Trump administration, anybody who actually cared about consumer safety was just sort of silently crushed. At the time, I remember they modified the wording of notices about the COVID vaccine and all kinds of other such things, and global warming especially. Forbidden to mention global warming in any government documents because Trump did not believe it existed, and so on. So I remember seeing all this happen at the time, but they were lining up the chapter and verse here. There is no way to validate if OpenAI says the truth or not. Well, the only way to find out will be to wait and see if any of these big claims come true. I think Gartner is correct to say none of it's going to come true, even in 10 or 20 years. There's going to be no AGI and no superintelligence. So as far as I know, that's the only way. So this is kind of amazing. I learned about this a few years ago, and it's really all around you when you see it. Mike Lindell has changed the price of his pillow to $14.88. And if you don't know this, this is a Nazi symbol. It's a very simple Nazi symbol. And they know, you can put this, you'll see it in newspaper articles and everywhere, and I see it in front of buildings, and this is a code that this is where the Nazis should go. Because 88 is Heil Hitler, H is the 8th letter of the alphabet, and 14 is the number of words in the white supremacist oath, which I think they have here. Yep, the 14-word slogan, which is, we must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. So the people in the know. And once you know this, you'll see it all around. it is kind of scary. But I mean, this is what Donald Trump demonstrated. I used to tell students 10 years ago, there's almost no Nazis in America. You don't have to worry about it. Now we know there are a lot of Nazis in America, and they're all around us, and they are arranging code symbols. And if you learn the code, you begin to see how much of it's going on. Although you just have to look at the number of people voting Republican to see that there is a lot of it. Not that every Republican is Nazi, but they're all Nazi affiliates. They're happy enough to support Nazis, even if they themselves don't openly declare Nazis, but they don't mind supporting Nazis for a tax break or something. So they're Nazi adjacent. Anyway, the air traffic control systems, this is charming, are incredibly out of date, and they're not going to get refreshed. Much worse than I would ever imagine. They have 90 of the 105 unsustainable and unsustainable systems are not going to be modernized for like 10 years. So 17 systems are especially concerning as they have critical operational impact at the same time as being unsustainable. They're not going to be updated until 2030 or 2035. Some of them have no modernization plan at all. 2 are more than 40 years old, and a further 7 are more than 30 years old, which is pretty appalling for computer technology. So this reminds me of something during the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, there was an article saying they wanted to send checks to people to help them through the pandemic, but they couldn't because they couldn't find COBOL programmers, and the US government financial systems are still running COBOL, which was invented the year I was born. It's as old as I am. So I learned COBOL, started teaching COBOL. I thought it was kind of interesting. It's kind of fun, but anyway, there's a lot of things still running on really, really old computers. Important things like air traffic control. And so I've heard of people being afraid of this, but I didn't know it had happened. There is now AI-written malware, and you can tell in an email campaign targeting French users, they're using code written by AI. And how can you tell? Well, you can tell because the AI writes it properly. They put a comment before every line. No real coder would do this, but this is what AIs will do. It's put a comment. This is AI-generated code. And so people said this would happen, yeah.
Then it means that this is available on the net.
Well, it means anybody could get it if they learn how to tell the AI how to make it, yes, and it's not that hard. I mean, if the AI will typically refuse to write malware, but if you just break it up into like 5 stages and say, write a function that does this, it will do it, write a function, that's the way you write it. So it's, then each piece is not malicious.
Yeah, but you're just the prompt in order
Yeah.
to trick.
But to be fair, everything, I'm teaching a coding class now, and I let the AI write part of it. It's just an assistant. You get used to it. It's just like auto-suggest when you're writing emails. I'll start writing something, it'll guess the next few lines, and usually it's right. And so, in a way, everything is kind of AI-generated now. Anyway, this one's pretty amazing. There was a cyber attack on a water plant, and it forced them to go to manual mode. We've been warning, the U.S. CISA has been warning us for years that foreign attackers are attacking our critical infrastructure systems, and the evidence is very clear. They're real attacks that really have happened. None of them have yet, I think, killed anybody, but it's only a matter of time. Anyway, that's why we need to improve the security of our critical infrastructure. Now, Eric says programmers lose jobs with AI. Well, I don't know. In my experience, it just helps you write code, but maybe. Anyway, I'm going to stop this recording.